Well, last hour we spoke with Philippa Cave and her 82-year-old mother Janet, who live in Balgowlah. Janet is being booted out of her home along with her 90-year-old husband Harry because of the compulsory land acquisition happening for the construction of the Beaches Link. These residents are obviously devastated to lose their homes, but they're not against the Beaches Link. What they're against, though, is the amount of money that they're being offered, well below market value. In some cases, $1 million below true market value. There's no way they can stay in the same area. Anyway, Janet is being shortchanged almost $750,000 right now by the state government. Shirley Butcher, who also lives on Dudley Street in Balgowlah, is being dudded, well, even more. You know, we're talking over $1 million. It's a heartbreaking situation for all the residents involved. And it's just, here we go again. We've seen it all around Sydney with compulsory land acquisition. In our west, in the Shire, around the new Western Sydney Airport, and now on our northern beaches. The state government must do better. I want to bring in Jason Falinski, who's the federal member for Mackellar on our northern beaches, and he joins me live on the line. Jason, welcome back to Drive.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks for having me.
I know you support the Beaches Link, Jason, but is it fair that these Balgowlah residents are being offered far less than market value for their properties?
Not only is it not fair, Jim, it just doesn't make sense. I mean, the fact of the matter is that this is a billion-dollar project, multi-billion-dollar project. It's going to change lives on the northern beaches. It's going to change lives right across Sydney, to be honest with you. But the fact is, why you would nickel and dime people over a few $100,000, which I know sounds like a lot of money, and it is. It's a lot of money for an individual. But in the context of this massive project, it just makes no sense. And in the end, the thing about it is it just causes anguish, anxiety, stress, and they end up getting the money anyway because they're forced to take it to court, and so it costs money to hire lawyers, time, effort, the delay. It's just, honestly, we should shortcut this by paying people what their property is worth.
You're the federal Liberal member for Mackellar on the Northern Beaches. Have you spoken to your state colleagues, to the state government about this?
No, I haven't, but I will be. I'll be speaking to James Griffin about this and seeing what can be done, and also to Matt Keane. Because the other thing about this is this has just been going on for too long. So I was assured a couple of years ago that this was an issue. It was all in hand, and discussions between Transport for New South Wales and the residents was underway. Turns out 2 years later, they're still stuck. And that's just not good enough. It's not good enough.
Well, it's just, what gets me, and the same with Orchard Hills in our west, it's the same with what happened in the Shire, also around Western Sydney Airport as well. What's happening here is that, you know, and I'm hoping that the Minister for Transport and Planning, Rob Stokes, I spoke to him on the program on Friday, and he said that negotiations should be made to ensure that these residents get offered a fair price. But we heard the same thing with Andrew Constance when he was Transport Minister, State Transport Minister. Why has it come to this? Why is it so hard that the government just can't offer fair market value in the first place so that these people might actually be able to stay in the area?
So, Jim, this is my guess. It's absolutely a guess, which is you've got a bunch of people running these programs in Transport for New South Wales who actually don't think that people are entitled to fair value on their homes. So they put them through hell for no better, not because the money isn't there, not because the state government doesn't think it's fair, but just because they're a group of bureaucrats who think they can do it. And what the state government needs to do is need to explain to people in the public service, in Transport for New South Wales, the commerciality of this. But the time and effort taken to hire lawyers, to hire dodgy valuers, and the stress and strain that they're putting people through on the other side of it is just not worth it. And besides that, it's not fair and it's not right. And that's why we have publicly elected officials, so that we aren't run by technocrats and bureaucrats. So, look, anything I can do to help Bob Stokes get this under control, I will.
Well, I'm glad about that. We need your help. You know, people like Janet and Harry, they need your help. People like Shirley Butcher. So I appreciate that, because what's happening right now is it's terribly unfair, and it's heartbreaking to see what's happening with these hard-working people who deserve much more when they're well into their 80s. And as in Harry's case, he's turned 90. Before I let you go, the issue of mandatory vaccination has been debated in Parliament today. Where do you sit on governments requiring a person to be vaccinated to work or live freely?
Well, mate, I've made my position clear on this over and over again. I'm not in favour of mandatory vaccinations, and I'm not in favour of vaccination passports. Now, having said that, just like you, I've been double vaccinated. My family's been fully vaccinated. Anyone I've spoken to, I've encouraged them to get fully vaccinated. It is the best way for us to get through this, and most importantly, it's the best way to protect yourself and your loved ones. But having said that, unless you're like a frontline health worker or you're in aged care, I have a fundamental problem with government telling people what they have to put in their bodies. Having said all of that, what happened in the Senate today was not right. It just wasn't right.
Labor's accusing your leader, Scott Morrison, of pandering to extremists. And I reckon we'll be hearing that line, I reckon, repeated a whole lot more between now and the federal election. How do you respond to that?
Well, I say to them, keep saying it. You keep telling ordinary, hard-working Australians and their families that just because they disagree with Daniel Andrews, that they're extremists. I want the Labor Party, I want the Greens, I want their left-wing front groups and all the independents pretending to be independents. Keep telling ordinary Australians that they're extremists just because they disagree with you. You keep telling, see how that goes for you. I mean, and frankly, that's what we expect from the left wing. We expect them to tell, the working men and women of Australia that if you disagree with them, that you're extremists. I mean, people are allowed. I have never accused anyone who said, look, I don't want to get vaccinated of being an extremist. I understand that there are people who are concerned about that. The way through that process is to listen to what their concerns are and to calmly explain to them why those things have been taken care of.
Yeah, but having said all that, though, we don't need death threats against premiers. It should never come to that.
Mate, and as I said in the chamber, as I said in Parliament today, I mean, I condemn that. That is just appalling. Yeah, But at the same time, where was the Labor Party when the CFMEU in Melbourne was actually committing acts of violence against police officers? I didn't notice the outrage then. So it's the double standards, and if you disagree with them, you're an extremist. So I encourage them to keep telling ordinary Australians that.
Jason,
I really do.
Jason, thank you for your time, and again, thank you for your help as far as this compulsory land acquisition for these poor residents in Balgowlah. Good on you, mate.
And Jim, thanks for all the hard work. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Mate. Good on you, mate. That's Jason Falinski, the federal member for Mackellar on our northern beaches.